welcome to Faces and Places of New York. Tonight, we have some pieces of news that I would like them to be picked up by the mainstream media, mainstream news, mainstream, channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, CNN, MSNBC, Fox Lies, Fox News, but they lie. And the others that I don't remember or I don't have here, like HLN, I think it's a subsidiary of CNN. It's unbelievable to see that they give a pass to Donald Trump, or basically to mainly to Republicans, because remember Joe Biden, it was 24/7. Joe Biden is old. Joe Biden is old. Joe Biden is old. And look at his body of work, all the things that he has accomplished in just 3 years. Kamala Harris, her body of work. Don't be talking about gossip, about McDonald's, about the, she has a white husband. I don't care about it. Like she's a human being. She's a hardworking American individual. Talk to me about what she's doing. Tell me that she has a great policy, what she did in the Senate, her body of work. I bet many people don't know what she did. She was a tiebreaker between the Democrats and the Republicans to carry on all these wonderful policies that Joe Biden has for the infrastructure policies. Yes, basically that's what I'm gonna be speaking tonight. That was just a little intro. I'm gonna share some pictures from Utah. I went to Utah last week. Since last weekend I was there, and I'm gonna tell you it's very different from New York City. Utah, I almost fell in love with it. I am not a Mormon, but I went to the temple, to the tourist, to the facility. They have a big building for people to see. I saw lots of missionary girls, 17-year-olds that are from many countries. I tested the trains, the city trains, and how it works. They have some fractions that are free, like in the Creek Center, the downtown mall, that area, and also for the Mormon churches and Mormon facilities. They, I asked questions. I was so intrigued about that town, that city, but they never mentioned the word Mormon. I wanted to go to the churches, but the main church is being repaired in the city. The one that had the golden angel on the very top with a trumpet. Yes, I went there. I went to other places, and it's very easy. It's like New York City. You take a train, you go up, you go down. Over there is cheaper. One day pass is like $5. And yeah, I didn't talk politics with anybody in Utah, but I think I would like to visit again. I'm that excited. Well, with no further ado, let me tell you about tonight. I really want to talk about the Arlington, Virginia Trump incident that finally the Atlantic has picked up. Trump Project 25, Kamala Harris and her venues that are packed. Unlike Donald Trump, many of his places where we go to campaign, they have plenty of empty seats. On the contrary, Kamala Harris the people is super excited, super vocal and happy. And I want to talk, if you guys, maybe you know, because I don't, what are the policies that Trump is offering to the working class? He like to talk gossip about people's appearance, about meanness. He rants, he goes crazy, you don't know what he's talking about. But it's okay because the media doesn't pick up on that. They were just interested in Joe Biden that he was old. Joe Biden is old. Joe Biden is old. Like everywhere, Joe Biden. Now that he is not running for a second term, I don't hear anything about Joe Biden's age. They don't talk about his body of work, all of his achievements. And also a last piece I want to talk to is North Carolina. The Cook Political Report moved North Carolina from a leaning Republican state to a toss-up. Let's go, North Carolina. Also, the red states Democrats are as excited as we are in the blue states. And you know it's not easy for them because I have been to some red states and you have to choose your words because you don't know if you're going to offend those people. You don't know if they're going to attack you. You don't know if they're going to take it personal. Like me, myself, I had an incident. I spoke to a lady from North Carolina, and she was, when they are Trumpers, but they think these guys, they talk about wars, about the lesser of two evils. You know where the conversation is going. They don't talk about the body of work of the Senate Democrats, all the progress that we're doing, all the achievements for the working class. No. They just talk words in the air. Oh, they don't mention Trump, they don't mention Kamala. Anyways, we had a good conversation and, we got a good result. Let's go and see. Let me quote one of the videos for the Arlington, Virginia Trump incident. And also, PBS reported this. PBS, they tell the truth. They are not Republicans. They are not Democrats. Whatever they report is the truth. Hold on.
National Cemetery during Donald Trump's visit there on Monday. It happened while Trump was in Section 60, the burial site for recent U.S. casualties. Trump suggesting on Truth Social that the problem stemmed from his campaign's use of photography. CNN's Elena Treen has more on that from Washington. What happened here?
Right. Well, Sarah, so a lot of back and forth from both sides, the Arlington National Cemetery, but also the Trump campaign on what exactly did happen. But what we know is that some people who worked at the cemetery had blocked members of Donald Trump's team, members of his campaign, on Monday from attending and participating in some of the wreath ceremony when Donald Trump was laying some of the wreaths on Monday to honor the 13 fallen U.S. service members who were at Kabul's Abbey Gate during the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. Now, I'm going to break down some of this for you. So the big question here is about whether or not Donald Trump was able to, participate in partisan events, as the cemetery calls it, while at that visit, particularly in this area called Section 30. Now, we did hear from Donald Trump. He posted, as you mentioned, Sarah, on Truth Social. And as you said, he did seem to argue that perhaps this was because of photography. This is what he wrote on Truth Social. And they also included a post or a letter from the families who said that they had supported this effort. He had said, quote, "We had given our approval for President Trump's official videographer and photographer to attend the event, ensuring these sacred moments of remembrance were respectfully captured, and so we can cherish these memories forever." And that is from the families of some of the service members who were killed during that Afghanistan withdrawal a couple years ago. Now, I will also add that the cemetery, for their part, had said in a statement to CNN that federal law prohibits political campaign or election-related activities at Arlington National at Army National Military Cemeteries, So that's where some of the dispute is here. Now, I will say NPR was the first to report some of this. They had said that they had heard from someone at Arlington National Cemetery who said that there was a physical altercation between members of the cemetery staff and Donald Trump's campaign. Trump's campaign has pushed back on that. They said that there was no physical altercation. However, a member did block them from participating in this. Now, we also did hear from Chris LaCivita. This is Donald Trump's co-campaign manager. He's also someone who is a veteran. He said, quote, "President Trump was there on the invitation of the Abbey Gate Gold Star families to honor their loved ones who gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country. For a despicable individual to physically prevent President Trump's team from accompanying him to this solemn event is a disgrace and does not deserve to represent the hallowed grounds of Arlington National Cemetery." So again, Sarah, a lot of back and forth here. I do think the big takeaway is that this was a moment that, of course, Donald Trump's team, they recognized was a solemn moment. This was something to honor the family members of the fallen soldiers, and has been a bit tainted now by this dispute over whether or not Donald Trump had violated federal law by making this a political event. Sarah?
We also, beyond this, and that's Chris Lesavita's video there of him laying down those flowers. We also saw this very friendly interview with Dr. Phil and President Trump. What did you learn from that?
Right. Well, we've seen Donald Trump has sat with Dr. Phil before, and you're right. It is a friendly interview. It's always interesting to see him when he's sitting down with people that he feels like he can be more candid with, he's more comfortable with. That is kind of the vibe that we got from this interview last night. But at one point, Donald Trump did talk about his attempted assassination on him back in Butler in July, and he seemed to hint that he believes that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris bear some responsibility for that. Take a listen to what he said.
When this happened, people would ask, whose fault is it? I think to a certain extent it's Biden's fault and Harris's fault. And I'm the opponent. Look, they were weaponizing government against me. They brought in the whole DOJ to try and get me. They weren't too interested in my health and safety. I would be if I were in their position, but they weren't very interested. But they were always making it, from what I understood, and I could feel it, they were making it very difficult to have proper staffing in terms of Secret Service.
Okay, Sarah, so first of all, I just want to be clear that there's no evidence whatsoever that President Joe Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris have tried to purposefully, make it more difficult as it relates to Secret Service staffing for Donald Trump. But the point about the rhetoric is something we actually have heard Donald Trump and many Republicans argue, that it was the rhetoric and the language that Democrats use against him that contributed to this person attempting to shoot Donald Trump. And so a lot to unpack there. I think you're going to probably continue to hear some of this. And as we know, as we move closer to November, a lot of these attacks are getting more personal, more nasty. And that's kind of where Donald Trump laid this yesterday.
All right. Eleni Shaheen, thank you so much.
The problem is that Donald Trump is a liar. How does he accuse Kamala Harris and Joe Biden? They have nothing to do with it. They have nothing to do with the staffing. They don't nothing to do with the layout of the security planning and the blueprint of the place. Actually, many people are questioning that shooting on the ear, like what happened? And then miraculously, he was healed, and he has no evidence that he was shot. Many people question his version of this event. The pictures are there. And then why did they kill that person? If he's a criminal, take him to justice to see what happened. Why he's gonna tell who sent him to kill him. Let's go to something else, because I'm sick and tired of the Trump lies. Let's go now to the let's go now to Trump Project 25 to see if we can find some excerpts here on social media.
22-page blueprint to make Donald Trump the most powerful president ever. Overhauling the Department of Justice. Giving Trump the unchecked power to seek vengeance. Eliminating the Department of Education. And defunding K-12 schools. Requiring the government to monitor women's pregnancies and severe cuts to Medicare and Social Security. Donald Trump may try to deny it, but those are Donald Trump's plans.
Well, revenge does take time, I will say that. And sometimes revenge can be justified.
He'll take control, we'll pay the price.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
Wow, I just built the most amazing workflow on Monday.com.
You build your own workflow? Why? There are a bunch of That was a new ad from the Harris-Walz campaign criticizing Project 2025 and attempting to make a clear link between former President Trump and the conservative blueprint. Joining us now is the national co-chair for the Harris-Walz campaign, Mitch Landrieu. Mitch, thank you very much for joining us this morning. So, of course, Donald Trump has distanced himself from Project 2025. It did feature heavily in Chicago at the DNC. What's your data, what's your polling on how much the American public understands about this project, how much they know about it, and how much it might influence their vote?
Well, first of all, they understand Donald Trump. They don't believe a word that's coming out of his mouth. As Governor Walz said, you don't really create a plan unless you intend on using it. It's what's in the plan that matters. That basically confirms that this race is between two big ideas. One of them is for a guy that thinks about himself, rich billionaires, and getting the power and then control to exert grievance over everybody that he disagrees with. And Project 2025 gives him the power to do that, from reorganizing the Department of Justice to go after his enemies to monitoring women's pregnancies. Or you can have Kamala Harris, who wakes up every day thinking about the American people, trying to create opportunities, reducing people's costs, and actually trying to lift us up for a new way forward. That's the choice that we have. And Project 2025 gives you a roadmap to where Donald Trump is absolutely heading.
So we came out of Chicago with an enormous amount of enthusiasm, unity, the word joy being thrown around an awful lot, and a lot of money raised by the vice president. We've seen the polls move, but not perhaps as much as the enthusiasm might suggest. At the moment, the candidates are neck and neck in most of the swing states. When would you expect to see more of a poll movement, given the kind of shift in, I think the word of the summer is vibe, in the Democratic team?
Well, first of all, the excitement has been incredible. Every day that Kamala Harris has been the candidate, we have won the election every day. You have to continue to build on that. You can see that she's come from a position of being behind to moving, fairly significantly even. We've never thought that this was going to be a blowout race. It's always going to be close, which is why we organized the campaign around the institutional organizations in the battleground states that matter the most. So we expect this race to be close until the last day. But we're built for it, and we're ready to go. And as you see, the vice president and Governor Walz are heading to the great state of Georgia to continue to campaign. I think they've made 2 rounds now of the battleground states, and we'll continue to do that every day.
It's Alexia McHammond. You're, of course, great at talking about infrastructure and making that connect with voters and making sure they really understand the investments that Biden and Harris have made on that front. How do you do the same thing with Project 2025? And in what swing states do you anticipate talking about Project 2025 could have the most impact with voters?
Well, again, the big idea here is that Donald Trump is out for himself all the time. He wants grievance, and he wants the power. He's now gotten the Supreme Court to treat him differently than any other human being. And now Project 2025 helps him close the gap on being able to do the things that he said that they were going to do in the ad. So we'll be telling people this, of course, everywhere that we go. But the American public doesn't need much more evidence, for example, that Donald Trump does not respect women, from his accusations of sexual abuse to rape to now having a vice presidential candidate that basically thinks that women that don't have children shouldn't have anything to say about anything, and now evidently can't even teach kids in class. So I think women in America have a pretty good idea about who's on their side. Kamala Harris says she will continue to fight for them. Project 2025 actually wants to give him the power to monitor women's pregnancies. And if that doesn't scare the hell out of you, I don't think anything will.
Mr. Mayor, I want to get your reaction, the Harris campaign's reaction to a story we were talking about earlier in the show, and that is some officials at Arlington National Cemetery say that they were bullied, intimidated. There's an altercation with some Trump campaign officials when he was there Monday and attempting to film portions of what he was doing there, and there's been an outcry that he is perhaps using the nation's most sacred space as backdrop for political purposes. What does the campaign have to say about this?
Well, I think the only thing you can say about it, based on the comments of his chief of staff, John Kelly, is that it's not a surprise to anybody that he disrespects veterans. He called them losers. I mean, this story has been covered many, many, many times. So nothing Donald Trump does in this space should really kind of surprise anybody. He's done it again and again, and it's just, sad.
And Mr. Mayor, lastly, Donald Trump last night said that terms were agreed to for the first debate, September 10th, between himself and the vice president. Can you update us that? Has the Harris campaign also signed off on this?
You know, it's just, I find it so interesting that what we're fighting about is the fact that his own team wants to shut him up. I don't know if I've ever heard that before in the debates and the rules of the debates. Look, if the microphones stay on, people are going to hear what he says. If they don't, if they stay off, he's going to yell and scream anyway. He's an uncontrollable guy. He's unhinged. I heard that he just went on TV with Dr. Phil and claims that he won the California election, although he lost by 5 million votes. This is a delusional guy. And rather than talking about the microphones, we ought to continue to talk about the fact that Donald Trump evidently does not see reality. And that's really kind of a critical part, because some people want to give him the power of the presidency so that he can use it in a way that's going to hurt the American people. And we're not going to let that happen.
And Vice President Harris and her running mate on the road in Georgia today. National co-chair for the Harris-Walz campaign, Mitch Landrieu. Mitch, thank you for joining us this morning.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
And as we wrap things up, as we hinted earlier, exactly 10 years ago today, the world was rocked by a political scandal of simply epic proportions. The Daily Show brings us back to that harrowing day.
The president came out addressing reporters on Thursday, and he was wearing this tan suit.
President Obama's decision to wear a light tan suit at yesterday's news conference. He was wearing a tan suit.
Light tan suit.
I think it was shocking to a lot of people. Is this an effort to make him look warmer?
There's no way I think any of us can excuse what the president did yesterday. I mean, and then for him to walk out, I'm not trying to be trivial here, but in a light suit, light tan suit.
Also known as Tangate.
Tan suit, and how the tan suit made him look unpresidential.
Whoever talked him into going into a tan suit, they're so desperate because of these low poll numbers, they're willing to do anything.
The tan suit made him look unpresidential.
10 years later, we are still recovering from that moment. On that note, that does it for us this morning. Morning Joe will be back tomorrow.
Welcome back. I don't have to explain anything. You see, it's self-explanatory how the media wastes our taxpayer money from Washington talking about.
My friend Kamala is coming up on one of the last major fundraising deadlines before Election Day.
Money,
so when I say that your donation will go
how concerned they are about the working class, especially, well, look at the history, the resume of Walz, and look at the Vice President, Ms. Harris, how she's like working. See all the bills that she has helped pass in Congress. So let's see the venues that they are packing. Hold on.
Savannah Airport just moments ago. WJCL 22 News' AJ Sisson is on the ground at the airport. AJ, Harris and Walz are set to begin a bus tour campaigning across our area.
Exactly, just as you said, we're here at the Savannah Hilton Head International Airport, where literally just 30 minutes ago, Vice President Kamala Harris landed in Air Force Two with her vice presidential candidate pick, Tim Walz. She is here on a presidential campaign tour, not in her capacity as the vice president. She's here on a campaign tour. Now, like I said, they touched down almost exactly at 3:30, as you're seeing on your screen now. She's here with her vice presidential candidate pick, Tim Walz. Mayor Van Johnson was there, as well as Chairman Chester Ellis, there on the ground greeting the vice president as she landed and exited the plane. Now, the mayor did say in his press conference yesterday that she is doing a tour around Chatham County following landing here. They haven't released those spots of where she's going to just yet, but there was a crowd here at the airport watching as Air Force Two did land. They're saying that this was their way of showing their support.
I feel like it's history, and I got to offer my support. There's not a lot of ways that I can, so I figure if I turned out today and followed her around while she was here in Savannah, I could show my support.
Now, Vice President Harris is on that bus doing her tour right now, but as we said, the campaign has not released where she is going just yet, as well as her rally tomorrow evening. They have not released information on that, but we are working to figure that out, and as soon as we learn where the rally is going to be and where the tour spots are going to be today, we'll continue to update you on air and online at WJCL.com. In Savannah, AJ Sisson, WJCL 22 News.
All right, AJ, thanks so much for that live.
Harris has Democrats dreaming big in North Carolina. The nonpartisan Cook Political Report has shifted its electoral college rating for the state from lean Republican to toss-up. Cook's editor-in-chief, Amy Walter, explains that the race is tightening, quote, not because Harris is cutting into Trump's vote, but because Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents are coming home. NBC's Steve Kornacki is at the big board digging into those North Carolina numbers. What are you seeing, Steve?
Yeah, it's interesting, Chris. I mean, we think of it more as a red state. North Carolina did go for Donald Trump in 2020. Really the only time in sort of modern political history since 1980 it's gone Democratic was for Barack Obama by about this much in 2008. But North Carolina's been close. It's been a couple points. Take a look back at 2016. Donald Trump carried the state. It was by about 3.5 points. You could see Democrats erased more than half of that Trump margin from 2016 in 2020, brought it down to just about a 75,000 vote difference between Trump and Biden in 2020. So, we're talking about not huge changes needed here for Democrats to actually flip the state. And so what Democrats are looking at here, let's take it from their perspective first. There's sort of a tension in North Carolina between different parts of the state geographically, and we see this nationally too. What Democrats, where they draw hope from, are cities and metropolitan areas, suburbs, big, densely populated suburbs with lots of college degrees. Those are the voters who've been going in their direction. Areas around, this is Wake County, the Research Triangle, Chapel Hill, Durham in this area too, Metrolina, Charlotte, that area, even out in the mountains, Asheville. Those are sort of the areas demographically that are rich for Democrats and are trending in their direction. And I'll give you an example. Look at Wake County. This is where Raleigh is. Big county, big win for Biden in 2020. But just go back in time here and see how this has been evolving. We'll go all the way back to 2008. Remember, Obama did win Carolina in 2008. He only carried Wake by 14 points. Look how the Democratic margin has grown in the Trump era. From 14 with Obama, almost double that for Biden in 2020. And that's what we see. We see that in Mecklenburg County. That's where Charlotte is as well. Huge, huge population centers. So what Democrats see is these are big population centers, importantly, that are growing. They're gaining population, and they're becoming more Democratic. So the Democrats say, look, 4 more years of population growth, of becoming a little more Democratic. That's what they hope could certainly erase in their mind the lead that Donald Trump had statewide. The other thing that's happening in Carolina, though, is it's not just about the Blue Islands in the state. It's about many of them very small rural red counties. But look how many of them there are in the state. They add up. So I'll show you a small one here, and this is what we're talking about. Look at Surrey County. It's very small. Trump won it by 52 points in 2020. Now take a look how this one has evolved in the Trump age. Back in 2008, Obama got clobbered here, but the margin was 28.